Hello bunnies, and welcome to a very special episode. We are joined by my very, very real and very awesome husband, Andy.
Hello everyone.
And today he's going to teach me how to solder so that I can finally finish off Lisa's Tailor. Because now all we have left to do is just the roof with a little light and the floor, and then we get to slap all the cute little things inside, and then I can finish it at last. So what have we got here today? What are all the thingies? What are we going to do?
Well, soldering involves making a conductive connection between two wires or wires and a component like a little LED light. So we do that by heating some solder. So this is soldering wire. You heat it, you melt it. You can have a look at that, yeah.
Some soldering wire. It's quite flimsy and bendy.
Yeah, so you get different types of those. We don't need to go into details, but some have different types of flux inside them. Flux helps it flow a little better when it is molten, and you also see that if it's in a molten state for quite long, the flux burns out and it doesn't work so nicely. In order to heat it, we have a soldering iron. So, soldering iron. You also get different types of those, cheap ones, more expensive ones, ones that you can change the temperature of. This is a cheap one. Like it's not bottom range. It's a good brand and everything, but it's not one that you would use to solder expensive equipment like integrated circuit ICs and stuff. This one is for a basic tinkerer to have a good time.
Okay, so a tinkerer like me, and hopefully I don't set myself on fire or burn holes in the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what is this thing? It looks like something out of Star Wars, like
A little droid.
a TIE fighter or something. I don't know.
You call this a third hand. Literally, it helps you hold tiny components and things so that you have your hands free in order to manipulate solder as well as the soldering iron at the same time. It is very handy. It's not necessary. It's very handy. Yeah.
Okay.
And then below it, you'll see we've got a piece of natural sponge.
No, it's quite.
Yeah, it's very old.
Okay, so it's not supposed to be this crusty.
No.
Okay.
You use it over and over again. You wet it.
Okay.
So take
Yes. Water everywhere besides the sponge.
water, wet it nicely, let it soak in, and this serves as a cleaning pad for your soldering iron to wipe off any excess. You need some more oil on that. To wipe off any excess solder. As I said previously, solder that's been molten for too long won't be ideal to work with. You wipe it off on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. What other thingies have we got here?
We've got some wires to practice with. These are just some thin little wires. I took them out of a network cable. And then we've got a bunch of different cutters and pliers just in case we need them to cut things neatly. I also brought some other LEDs that we can practice on.
Yeah, these are a little bit bigger than the LEDs that you get in the kit. And the wire is pretty much the same thickness that comes in the little miniature kits.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then we also took one of the batteries from the kit just to check that the LEDs are working and what we're doing is working. So LEDs are
Yay!
yeah, you need to connect them the right way around.
Yeah, I just saw now, like you gotta. Yeah.
Some electrical components like tiny electrical motors, doesn't matter which way around you connect them, which way you connect positive and negative to, but LEDs are very specific about which leg is positive and negative. You'll see later that one leg is slightly shorter than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
It indicates which one is your cathode, which would be your negative leg, and your anode, which would be your positive leg. Also on the LED itself, you'll see that one has a flat side, because you might cut these off later, then you can still tell which is the flat side, which is not. We'll need to do a close-up of that.
Yeah, who knew these little things had so many little details on them?
Luckily LEDs, as long as you don't put a lot of voltage over them, they won't blow if you turn them, if you connect them the wrong side around.
Okay.
So it's a very safe component to practice with, as long as we use low voltages, like a little battery like this, and don't go to like a car battery. Yeah.
Imagine. Okay, cool. Well, I'm excited to get started. So we're just gonna do a camera switcheroo, and then we're gonna do the thing. Stick around.
Great. So here we are. Would you please plug the soldering iron in for me so it starts heating up?
Okay.
It's best to have the soldering iron on a little stand. This is just a simple little wire stand. Keeps it off the surface, keeps it from burning the surface. And then, as you see, I've made this spongy, nice and wet. Not soaking wet, but it's definitely more than just damp.
Don't burn your finger.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Okay.
So while we're waiting for the soldering iron to heat up, that'll take a few minutes. I would like to start stripping the insulation. I would like to start stripping the insulation from the wires, and the best way to actually do that for wires that are this thin is to use a lighter. You can use a wire stripper, but the normal cheaper ones are really not great for stripping wires that are this thin. So the easiest way to do this is just quickly burn it and rip it off, and you'll be able to see that the wire has now been stripped and we have access to the conductors that are inside. I'm going to do the same for the other side.
This doesn't look like the safest way to do this.
True, but your other option is taking something like a knife and cutting the insulation off with that. Now, this is me putting my finger right up against a knife blade, and you are guaranteed for a bad time as well.
And I suppose you can also cut some of the little wires off while you're doing this.
Exactly.
That's
So
not great.
these actually have a fair amount of conductors in them. So this is a multi-conductor wire. The other ones I have here is I think these are a solid conductor. I'm not sure. Let's see. They're actually not. So they all have multiple copper strands inside them. You get other wires, and I don't know what the kit wires are going to look like. That might have a single conductor inside. Yeah, I don't think I have some of those here, but especially when you have wires that have multiple strands inside, it's very easy to cut some of them off and then end up with a less than optimum conductor, which is bad for your circuitry. So it looks like a bit of a cowboy way, but really it's the most efficient way to get the insulation off.
Okay.
So we can have a look if this soldering iron is heating up properly, so we can hear that it makes a little bit of a sizzle. And what you can also see maybe is that when I bring it over that damp pad, the tip would start glistening better, and you'll see there's a bit of bits there on the tip where it's not glistening properly. It means the tinning is coming off. So the tip is tinned with a compound that makes the solder stick to it very nicely. Otherwise you heat up solder and it just drips off. You want it to heat up and sit there.
Okay.
So as soon as we have the solder iron getting shiny when we rub it on the little foam pad, sponge, we know that it might be close to the correct temperature. And it's really not ideal to be working with a giant spool of solder like this. So the easiest way is to just use your soldering iron to actually cut off a bit of solder, and now you've got a nice short piece of solder that you can work with easily, and you can always just cut off some more. You can put that to the side and it's out of your way. Now we can test if it's heated enough that we can actually melt solder with it. So as I said, the solder, you won't be able to see it in solder that's this thin, but it is actually hollow, and it has some flux inside it. You get many different types of solder. So some have more acidic flux and some have more lead content. You get lead-free solder. I am by no means a soldering expert, so because I only do hobby grade soldering and not industrial soldering, I get a very run-of-the-mill type of solder, and I just work with this. It works for most things that I need to do. So we can see that when we bring the solder close to the solder iron now, it'll start melting, and you get a nice little shiny blob of solder.
Oh, don't drop that on
this
your
side.
hand.
No, do not drop that on your hand. Would not recommend. So I keep on rubbing it there. Rubbing solder that's been melted onto the sponge pad helps me retin this soldering iron head as well, so that it keeps, like, shiny is good. You always want shiny when you're working with solder. Solder that's dull, that's non-reflective, probably was heated for too long and is not in a good condition and would not give you a good electric connection.
Okay.
So we know our soldering iron is hot, it's good. So let's test solder 2 wires. The solder is going to flow in between the 2 wires, but it really makes it easy if we wrap them around each other beforehand. And then we're going to use the solder as being a bit of a glue in that connection over there. But let me put these in my third hands so that I can have my hands free to work with them. And once again, you see the soldering iron has gone a bit dull now. It's not as chromey shiny. It's more like a copper color now. We don't really want that. As soon as I rub it again, it'll go to a bit of a more chrome color there. And now I would like to start heating this from below. If I'm above, heat travels upward. So I would like to start heating this from below so that I can get the most heat flowing through it. And then right at that contact point where I'm going to contact the 2 wires, I want to start feeding in some solder in there. I'm heating it. You don't want to take too long. It will, wires that are this thin will heat up very quickly. And you see the solder flowed nicely across the whole joint, and we've got a very, very good joint there. It's all nice and chromy silvery. It's not dull and copper looking, which for all purposes means we've got a pretty good joint there. You'll be able to see that it's strong. Good joint. Now, I don't like these little frayy bits standing out there. I'm going to cut them off. And there we have a neat solder joint. If we were to keep the soldering iron there for too long, we run the risk of some of this insulation starting to burn off, and we make this joint bigger and bigger and bigger, which means we become sloppy, and we need to then cover more of this with heat shrink, which we'll show you now.
But then that also affects the flexibility and makes it harder to wrap around things, especially in these kits.
100%. So as you'll see, the wire is quite flexible.
Yeah.
But where it's soldered, it's solid. It doesn't want to flex there.
Yeah, so that's not ideal when you're doing the lights in these kits, because you always have to stick them into corners, the wires, to kind of hide them. So yeah, that's not ideal.
Yeah, no, this is really good. So, do you want to try this, my love?
Okay. Okay, so we've done a little switcheroo. So now it's my very awesome fingers, just showing off my manicure a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna put. I'm twisting it first together, right? Or
you don't need to twist these. I mean, you don't. No, you've got the right idea. Yes, you want to twist them together.
Yeah.
What I meant is you don't need to. You
Yeah,
don't need
like
to
actually-
twist the fray like
Yeah.
that. You don't need to do that.
yeah, but I meant like putting them.
Yeah.
Do I need to have a certain amount of wire exposed?
Do what's easiest for you to get that twist nice and tight. Does it
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. You know, things are a lot harder when you have long nails. Is that okay? Or is that not tight enough?
No, that seems perfect. Because you got to remember the solder is going to flow in between all those
Right.
little wires.
Yeah.
So
God, this thing is so hot.
you would be able to actually put them right next to each other without twisting them.
Uh-huh.
The problem is holding them in that position.
Right.
Because for that split second that you're not holding them while the solder is still hot, they might come apart. And
Okay.
if the solder is moving while it is getting cooler, you will get what's called a dry joint. One that's
Uh-huh.
dull, one that's not shiny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this thing has got like a little blobby on it now, so I obviously need to rub the blobby off. Rub it off. Okay, well, the blobby doesn't want to come off. Just keep rubbing.
You can be a bit more violent with it. So
Ugh.
rub it while you're turning it. Yeah,
Ah, there we go.
See,
Got
it's
it
off.
off. Yay! Okay, and then this thingy.
Piece of solder.
So then putting it underneath like that. Am I making contact with the wire?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
I don't feel like I'm doing this. Is this thing still on?
It is.
It's not getting hot. So I'm making contact with this, not
so,
that.
So first, before you try and solder the wires, first see what it's like to melt a bit of solder
Right, okay.
onto the tip. Just get yourself used to.
Ah, okay.
Where
So
you
it
touch
needs
it.
a little bit of pressure as well, because I was just like hovering it over there, hoping for it to melt.
Hold the solder, like let the solder cross the soldering iron about 2 millimeters from the tip, so still on the shiny bit. About there, just put it on there and see how it melts.
Right, okay.
And you can play with that. There's lots of solder. You can play and see how it melts. Just get used to
Mm-hmm.
what's happening. Now,
Right.
you would be able to place that blobby of molten solder right into that joint.
Okay.
But that wouldn't be the proper technique to do this.
Right. Okay, so
Right there. Put it, yeah, there we go. I think
Woo.
you've got the joint. It's done.
so many fumes, but now
It's
there's a
done.
piece there that's not covered.
So it doesn't matter that you cover the entire joint.
Okay.
What matters is that there is a part of that joint that is completely covered.
Okay. And then I suppose that makes sense because we're going to be covering this with a heat shrink,
With
so
a heat
it
shrink
doesn't
to insulate
actually.
it, yeah.
Yay! That's my first ever soldering joint.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm always so scared of this because I know how hot this thing is, and I mean it'll burn right through your skin onto the bone. So this has been something that I've wanted to learn it, but I'm also quite scared and intimidated by it. But it's actually not that bad. I think the worst part of this is the smoke that comes off of it. It's like
Yeah.
quite gross.
You do actually get a little extractor fan that you can put next to you.
Yeah.
But once again, for someone who's going to do it as infrequently as you are,
Yeah.
To invest in a little fan is actually not worth it.
Okay, so what's next?
Well,
Can we
so
switch this dangerous thing off?
We
Or
don't
not
need
yet?
to because we want to do some more soldering right now.
True. Okay.
And we want to try and solder a little LED.
Okay.
So, do you want to try and take the wires, the edge of the insulation from the wires yourself?
No, I'm kind of scared I'm going to burn my nails.
Would you like to try it with a blade instead?
Yeah, I suppose I could do that. So this side is not cut. Still,
You want to do that?
yeah, let's
Okay.
do this one. So, like that much?
Yeah.
Lord. So what do you... I need some more blade.
What you would want to do is you'd want to be turning the wire so you can cut right round, but it's easier when the wire is thicker, when you're dealing with larger wires like
Yeah.
power cords. That's why
No, this is not going to work for me.
that's why this is so difficult when you're working with small wires.
Yeah, I can just see myself cutting through my fingers because I'm quite clumsy. So this is going to make me bleed, definitely.
I'm trying to get you the wire stripper as well, but you'll see immediately the problem when you're working with thin wires is it just does not work.
So, yeah.
This is a basic wire stripper. You'll find them in many hardware stores, and they've got different stripping mouth bits for different gauges of wire. The problem is the wire that we're working with is much, much thinner than this goes down to. So you end up using this cutting bit.
And cutting right through it.
And let's see if we can. So I'm trying not to cut through it. I can feel that I've got tension there. As soon as I got tension, I'm going to pull.
Okay.
And yes, I do get the wire stripped. But I don't have a lot of control with not cutting through it.
Yeah.
So it's an option.
Okay.
Once you get used to using the lighter, you just don't go back.
I just don't want to melt my nails, man.
Are you going to do the other one?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
going to try this one.
Try it.
Stop pointing at me. Yeah, I'm so clumsy, I swear. Okay, so...
When you have a lot of wire, it's better to strip more than too little.
I get it.
If you have wire, just spare.
Good grip on it.
Mm.
I'm clearly not very good at this.
And then it just stretches.
Yeah, this is not my forte. I swear I have other redeeming qualities and many other talents. I think because I'm wearing moisturizer on my hands, I can't actually get a good grip on the wire.
Do you want
Or
to try
maybe
using
I'm
pliers?
not actually putting enough pressure on the thingy, so it's not
Could be.
actually cutting.
You've got wire to spare, so you can
Yeah.
you can accidentally cut it off as well. It doesn't matter now, because you're gonna need to learn to do this by yourself.
I know. Okay, let's try the lighter thing.
Okay.
All right, so this is gonna hurt. Ow! It does hurt, and I didn't even get it. Wow, this is super embarrassing. Okay, so we're resorting to holding the wire with some pliers because my hands are not holding on to this properly. We're holding on close to it. Okay. And then doing that. This shouldn't be this hard. I got it, look, yay! I got it. Look at me. It only took me 5 hours to do this, but I did it. Okay, yeah, so I think grip is an issue for me. Or maybe I just shouldn't wear hand cream when I'm doing this. Okay, cool. Now what?
Okay, well, we want to solder that onto the LED.
Yes.
Right. So your LED we can bend open a little bit to make it a bit easier for us to get to. We can open the connector legs. And I think you should wrap that around one of the legs and then clamp it in and solder it. It'll be easier to wrap if it's not clamped.
Okay.
See if you can do that.
Cool. You see. So am I doing wire up or like?
What I would do, let me take one off screen and show you what.
Okay. Yeah?
Okay.
Is that good?
Yeah, it might be easiest to do one at a time. So clamp that and let's solder it.
Are we then gonna cut off this extra little bit of the thing?
No, but for now we're just practicing soldering it to a component.
Right. Okay, so we do that. Okay.
Soldering iron is still hot.
Okay, and it's gone all like, looks like rust or something.
Okay.
Okay. Still from the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So stinky.
Yeah.
Is that cool?
That looks good. You'll learn to work fast because excessive heat can damage your component and it can melt more of your wire's insulation back. So
okay.
you learn to, as soon as you dab that soldering iron in the correct place, you bring the solder to it, you get it done, and you move away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got the other one with the thingy that I completely messed up. So I'm going to strip this side quickly. He's laughing at me. There's gonna be nothing left. Oh no. Husband, why are you doing this to me? Yay! Okay, it only takes me a few tries. I'll get there eventually. Okay. Then hold it. I'm gonna just get all the little thingies together because they're a little bit sticky outy. Okay. Holding the thingy, wrap it around. Okay, cool. Then let's try this. Let's try to do this a little bit faster this time.
So bring it close, bring the other hand close, and then move both of them.
This thing is in the way. Oh, sorry. Put the thingies back where they're supposed to be. Rule number 1.
Just remember that the soldering iron is hot, so always put it back in the correct place.
Yes.
Never put it down just for a click somewhere else.
Safety first, guys. Okay. Ah, so stinky.
You can always blow. There we go.
Oh, I ran out of thingy.
You got it. Yeah, you got
I
it.
almost soldered my nail to the thing. That would have been awful for me. Okay. Cool. So now we've got this whole thingy. It's all soldered together. Yay. Cool. What are we doing now?
So we want to test this, see if it's working. What we don't want is these previous solder joints that we practiced on earlier to possibly touch each other, and we're not going to do insulation on them right away, so let's just cut them off. So that we'll use these points to connect to a battery quickly, and won't have to worry about them touching each other and short circuiting. So
Battery.
bring the battery in, and see if that's the wrong way around. There we go.
Let there be light.
Switch it on and off.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we know that that is conductive, and we've got a joint there. And now we can snip off all the excess parts we wanted to.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. Ooh. We have success. Now we're unplugging the soldering iron because it's really warm and dangerous. See, I need adult supervision. You know, sometimes I don't know how I actually managed to build these kits because I'm so clumsy, and because my nails are so long, I struggle to hold things. So I make life very difficult for myself. Okay, cool. So we've cut the thingy. Okay, so I am just quickly going to make this little light with the papers before Andy comes and helps me, or at least supervises me, to finish the actual soldering and stuff of the light. And then we're going to stick it all onto the roof and then onto the model. And this is the part where you do the little battery compartment thingy. And yeah, then we're gonna do all of that. So let me just get started with the light quickly. Okay, so it says I must cut this off.
8 millimeters.
Can I use that cutty thingy?
Yes, you should use that kind of
Okay. Both of them.
thing. Yeah. Just gonna transpire.
Yeah.
So hold your hand over it. So
Yeah. There we go.
Good job. Okay, now you'll see the instructions show the inside of that LED to tell you which side should connect to which.
It's got like a weird, I don't know if it is going to focus on here, but it's got a, it's almost like a Z-shaped thingy inside the lamp that kind of indicates which side is which, right?
It helps you distinguish which side is which, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's important to just know that if you follow the instructions in the booklet, you can do this without soldering. You can make an electrical connection without soldering.
Yeah.
Why we prefer to solder this is that then we know the connection will be good for whatever long time. Where if we were just to follow these instructions and just turn the wire around the LED's legs, like they say, while we're busy gluing the lampy onto the rest of the model, it might loosen up.
Yeah.
And then you might end up with something that's already glued into your whole model and then suddenly doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. And that's obviously not great.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to avoid here,
Yeah.
and that's why we just go the extra mile to solder it in.
Yeah. So my first ever model, which was Kathy's flower house, that was my first one, and I did the wiring by myself, and I obviously didn't know how to solder, and I didn't ask Andy for help, and it was a complete disaster, and I'm very surprised that the wires didn't all come loose, because yeah, it was quite frustrating doing the lights on that model. And ever since then, all of my models have been soldered. I think it's just better to do it that way, like for longevity. There we go.
You have a nice piece to work with.
So this is obviously not the same as the other wire that we've been using.
This is a single core wire.
Yeah.
So the chance of cutting it off, cutting little strands off, is no longer there. You'll be cutting the whole thing off if you do this by accident, or it'll work.
Oops. Like that. There we go. These are much easier. Okay. All right.
What I would recommend is you take those needle nose pliers and you hold okay, so let's just check which one should be connected to the yellow and which one can be connected to the white. It says the one with the bigger cup, the little cuppy thing, is going to white, so we want to connect this yellow one to that. I think it's going to be easiest if we can get them close to each other. I'm going to try and pinch them there.
Ah, clever. You missed it.
Yeah, I missed, because it's not easy.
Yeah, it's very
But
small
doing it
thing.
with your hand is going to be even more difficult, I think. Pinch them there and then get it wrapped around. And now just wrap it around low enough so you can see. I think that's going to be great. Okay, what we didn't do now is we didn't do put the heat shrink on beforehand. Now, luckily we have access to the other side, but it means that after we've done the soldering there, we're going to thread the heat shrink through from the other side.
So you put it
So
in there first and then do the wrapping.
You can. Well, that's best, but we have access to the other side now. But when you're doing the battery, you will need to then remember to put the heat shrink over the wire and out of your way before you do the soldering, because you will not have access to the other side anymore. This will be glued into your model. Okay. So now, easiest to just maybe pinch it in the third hand there. Okay. And see if your soldering iron is warm enough, and
you lick it.
Okay, that's one of them done.
Cool.
You want to do the next one now? You can try the wrapping it by yourself.
Okay. Alright, so that
soldering is done, so I'm going to switch the soldering off.
That's it,
now.
yeah.
Plug it. You can do the heat shrink for it.
Yes.
Shall I get the
heat gun.
The heat gun. If you don't have a heat gun, you can hold a lighter or a candle to the heat shrink, being careful not to burn through it, but just to heat it. But while we have a heat gun available,
so this is a very, very large, intimidating tool to actually do these tiny things with. Yeah, it seems like a little bit of overkill, but you gotta do what you gotta do, right? Okay, so what to do?
do both at the same time.
Okay. Cool. Okay, there we go.
Okay, so when you're happy that they're at the correct place,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to hold them in such a way that they stay in that place, and you're going to take the heat gun with your other hand, and at the back of it you'll find a switch.
Okay, just move that out of the way.
Switch on. I can move this out of your way.
There we go.
like you have shrunk it correctly, and it's a nice insulated connection, and you know that since it's been soldered, you don't have to worry about it coming undone.
It ain't going nowhere.
You could pull on it as long as you don't break the wires. It's not going to come apart.
So we're going to introduce some more glue to this thing, because you know how much I love glue. So we've got this stuff which saved me when I was doing Dora's loft, because it has a very elaborate wire staircase, and trying to do that with just normal super glue was almost impossible. So this stuff is really cool. So you just put a drop of super glue, spray it once, and it's instantly dry, and it's just the coolest thing ever. Are we gonna need more space than that? Because
Um,
it's like a very small.
Probably that is very tiny.
Yeah, so let me not cut all of it off. The whole thing.
It would be best to use a knife for that, I think.
Maybe you should do that because I'm not very good with the craft knife doing that. So. We won't be able to use the third hand now because there's no space.
Yeah, it's too tall to get in there.
Okay, so we're gonna twist this around this wire. Is that cool?
Mm-hmm.
But now it's all sticky uppy.
Yeah, so if you're able to do it in a single line,
Right.
able to do it in a single line, that'll be better than doing it like that and bending both of them out.
Of course.
It's a bit more difficult to get it twisted like that, but it's going to make your job of getting that heat shrink over a lot easier. Okay, now it is going to be important to be fairly quick here, because you don't have a hell of a lot of heat shrink, and you want to be able to cover that entire splice with heat shrink. And if you are going to take too long, you are going to melt the insulation away.
Ah. Yeah,
kit soldering by yourself.
that was exciting.
And who would have known that the hardest part is stripping the wire?
Okay, so we have now finished all the wiring and stuff for the model, and it's been quite an exciting and interesting experience, but it's working.
Yeah, you've just done your first soldering job by yourself,
Yeah,
and who would have known that the most difficult part is stripping the wires?
yeah, yeah. Like I said, I have other talents, and it's just a testament to how special I am.
100%.
Yeah, so thanks Andy for helping me with this and showing me and teaching me a new skill. And I look forward to doing this again by myself and
Getting better at it.
Yeah.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah. Cool. Say bye.
Bye.
I'm gonna carry on with this build and finish it up, and then that'll be the end of that.
Bye.